Heyo!
My goodness.
Welcome.
Y'all are here. Welcome back. Welcome back. Or maybe not welcome back. Maybe I should say welcome for the first time.
First timers.
To Beyond the Basement, the complete breakdown Demon Slayer, mostly anime thus far podcast.
That's succinct.
We're working on that name still.
Put that on a t-shirt.
It's got a great acronym. I can't think of it right this second, but you're going to love it when you see it, okay? So here we are. We're back. Obviously, if you've been tracking with us, we normally do Attack on Titan. But we've done it. We've successfully done every of the main episodes of Attack on Titan so far. We're anime only.
Everything released.
Yes, everything released. Well, no, there's a few OVAs we haven't done. We'll sprinkle those in, so don't worry, those are coming. We've done the Levi OVAs. We did those, but anyway, nonetheless, we are officially starting on Demon Slayer, another very awesome / popular podcast, popular anime rather. And this time around, I don't know how we're gonna work this. We're just gonna figure it out as we go, because I've actually not seen this show before. I had seen this episode. I'm like 1.5 episodes in. I fell asleep during the second one.
How could you?
Here's the thing: is I say that, and I think everybody pictures me watching this on my phone while I'm in bed, and like I was tired. But that actually wasn't the case. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon, and I was just tired. I've had this habit lately. I've actually fallen asleep on my floor a couple of times in the middle of the day. I'm like, I need a break. I like lay down. I'm like working from home. I like lay down, and I'm just out for 15 minutes or something. So. Yeah, I do fall asleep fast sometimes.
Eric actually has an off button on the back of his neck here.
That's how this. I do, actually. That's how that happens.
I could just flip it and he'll just... I'm just kidding.
Okay, so should I still recap the episode then, you think?
Of course we should.
Okay,
Why
all
would
right.
we break that glorious tradition?
All right, so we'll recap this for you. So you know, these podcasts are probably not going to be nearly as heavy in subject matter. We'll still get into some stuff. There's some cool stuff to wade through, but maybe not quite as much, because Attack on Titan's like full of subtleties, and this one is not so much. Okay, so episode 1, Demon Slayer, starts out with some really cool snow graphics. That's all you really need to know.
Yeah.
Is that they do a really good job with incorporating the animation. What's the studio, by the way?
I think it was the
we don't know.
Udable.
Let me look.
Okay. Well, while Rachel's Googling that.
Was it Unfootable?
Ufotable? That's the name of the studio?
I think so.
Oh.
The name came up 7 times during the credits, so you'd think they're probably taking credit.
Okay, that would make sense. I'm unfotable. You can't take my picture.
Studio.
I'm actually a vampire.
We thought it was UFO table for a second, and then we're like, no, it's Ufotable. Ufotable, I-fotable, we all fotable.
We all fotable. Okay, so anyway, this episode starts out with like this scene with Tanjiro has Nezuko on his back, and she's like bloody, and he's like, I'm going to save you no matter what. Your big brother's going to save you. So that's like a flash forward apparently. So then we get back to this, intro, like actual intro, and it's Tanjiro and his family. How many siblings does he have?
5.
5 plus his mom?
He has 2 little brothers and 3 sisters, yeah.
Okay, plus mom. So he's got his whole family there. Anyways, he's packing up charcoal to head down the mountain. Apparently he's going to try and make money so everybody can have a good New Year. So I'm assuming it's like, they don't really do Christmas there, but maybe it's Christmas time.
Yeah, Japanese New Year.
Yeah.
Chinese New Year.
Anyway, so he's going to head down the mountain. He says goodbye to everybody, and it's very like happy, and just that's how you know it's going to be really sad in like 5 seconds. Like anytime, like, this is so awesome. Like
it's true.
Everyone's probably going to die soon.
I keep saying this, but it's like the same in Attack on Titan, the same in Demon Slayer. It's like, this is the level 1 RPG village that you're in. Everything's happy and nice. You meet everybody, and then you go to do a mission. You come back, and like a great evil has awakened.
Yeah, and you have to become this hardened, like grizzled, hero or whatever.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, so he takes off down the mountain, and he greets the villagers. He level 1 RPG. The villagers want to do trade with you, and everything's good. Everyone's
friendly.
Apparently, so number 1, we find out he's a handyman. We find out that he has a great sense of smell. Apparently, he
he's
can smell
basically
cats.
Everybody's big brother.
Yeah, he's everybody's friend. They'll like that he can work for him. Hopefully, he doesn't work for free. Of course, the setting is this like, sort of early industrial age era in Japan, which would be around the turn of the century. Which I say that, and it's happened twice since that was the thing. But
yeah,
1900s in there. Okay, so he sells all of his stuff, and he goes to head back up the mountain. He gets stopped by Saburo is what I'm calling him, and that's not his name. Saburo stops him and is like, yo, don't go up the mountain. It's dangerous right now. There's demons.
Like, I've got 4-wheel drive. You don't have 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. That's pretty much how that goes. And he's like, oh, okay, tell me about these demons. But he doesn't seem to really believe in them. So he stays the night there, kind of gets this warning from this old man about the demons will come into his house. He heads up the mountain that next day and comes to find his family has all been brutally murdered. And it's very gory, and I didn't expect it, and I was actually really shocked and kind of started to cry a little bit. And I was like, this is the most horrible thing I've ever
really
seen.
sad.
Like, it's just... the least I could say was at least you didn't have to watch it happen, bro. Okay, Aaron did, so just deal with it, I guess. So he finds his one sibling Nezuko her body's still warm. She might be salvageable, and he goes run down the mountain with her. She starts to growl and come back to life, and it turns out she is a demon. The demons are real, and she has become one. And in the kind of tussle with her, this mysterious man shows up with a sword and goes to kill her, and Tanjiro stops him. And they get into there's this whole fight scene. We'll go through the whole thing, of course. They get into this whole fight. And ultimately, Tanjiro actually does stop the man, but he stops him basically with his begging and his plea. He's like, no, it's my sister. Like, please help me find a way to, like, cure her. And he's like, there is no way, but if there was going to be a way, you have to go see this old man on the mountain. And here's his address. Don't Google it, because then the cops will know where you're going. So don't do that. But... He tells him where to go, and the episode sort of ends with what's his name, Tanjiro, having a dream of his family and his mother sort of saying goodbye to him. It's actually a really sweet moment. And then he buries his family, and then they head off, and presumably to go find this dude. Okay, so that's a recap. But I don't want to start at the flash forward part. I just want to start the actual
yeah, that makes sense.
RPG level 1 village.
Real quick though.
Okay, what?
Go ahead and lock your phone. This is for all you listeners and viewers at home.
Okay.
So before in Attack on Titan, the podcast that we were just going over in depth, they gave all the characters very Western names. Talked about this kind of Eurocentric.
Yeah. It's a what am I trying to say? Historical fiction. Attack on Titan is, in a way. It's not, but it is. Because he purposely puts it in a historical setting.
Yeah, exactly.
This one is as well.
Yeah, so the construction is very almost like Bavarian, if you'd say, but maybe just definitely more European.
Yeah, European for sure. So they all have Western names.
Yeah, and it's kind of a little bit strange for a manga to have those elements in there, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas now we're kind of going back to a more traditional Japanese piece.
And they all have Japanese names.
They all have Japanese names, which for us as Westerners, it's a little bit tough. Like I went up to Seattle to do some like work up in Seattle with a buddy, and so we went up there. We did our jobs like during the day. You come back, you're like dead tired. You don't want to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. You're in a hotel anyways. Like, yep. So I was like, you want to watch some anime? And he's like, I guess. And so we like threw it up there and we started watching Demon Slayer together, and we binged like the first 5 or 6 episodes, went to bed, woke up, got home the next day, and we were like, okay, you're still down? Yeah. But we watched them all in a row, and so it was kind of hard to like stop and take in all the details. So I definitely didn't get all the details the first went around, and remembering all of the characters' very Japanese names.
Yeah,
it's
tough.
Very difficult. Like there's kind of like people say, oh, everybody who is from a different place looks all the same to me, and it's a phenomenon that happens because it's like we're not used to analyzing and picking up the small minor differences.
Yeah.
In eye shape and skin color and nose and all these things. Like we're not used to kind of like picking up those differences very easily. I'd say for us in the United States, it's probably a lot easier because we see a very diverse group of people all the time.
True.
We see people of all shapes and skin colors and all sizes and all types of.
But if you're in a very homogenous, that sort of thing, like homogenous culture where everybody's basically has the same racial heritage.
It's probably harder for you to tell like a bunch of white people apart when you go into like the Nordic countries. It's probably harder for you to tell apart all of the Eastern European people or whatever, or your Asian people or whatever, where you're traveling. But it's kind of like that as well for Japanese words. Like Rachel and I have been doing a little bit of like Japanese.
You've been studying,
learning, and at first you're like, oh, okay, this symbol looks like a T. That's easy. This symbol looks like a R, but it's kind of slightly. But then there's like several symbols that look very similar, and
but there's like one tiny little thing different.
And the very big differences are really easy to spot. But the minor differences, that's where it starts to take the mastery to pick it up.
Yeah.
So these characters' names, to anybody who speaks Japanese, would be like, oh yeah, Paul, David, Sam, duh. Like these are definitely easy, but like
identical. Yeah.
Some of these names, like it took me a few episodes to figure out what the main guy's like name is for sure. Like I said it a couple times and I couldn't remember exactly how to say it. And then his trainer. So we're gonna do every episode. We're gonna quiz Eric to see how up
see how well I do.
Yes. Paris doesn't know anybody's name yet. Exactly.
It takes a while.
So I feel like this is true. This is a generically true thing about like anything that you're into. Once you get into it, you can start to see the differences. So Becca and I were just talking about this. So she kind of wants a different car. She's driving a car. She kind of wants more like an SUV. So I'm like, do you like this one? Do you like this one? Do you like this one? And to me, I'm like, these are all very different vehicles, different manufacturers, different years, like everything. And for her, she's like, yeah, they're kind of all the same, but I don't like the shape of this one. And so that started like a couple weeks ago. And then just today she was like, oh yeah, now that I'm looking at these all the time, I'm starting to recognize there's like a more of a difference between each of these. And I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, that would be true. Now think if you got really into cars, classic cars, you could look at two cars from the same year, the same model, the same manufacturer, and tell them apart because of like,
oh, the windshield wipers are different, the headlights are pointing, like, yeah,
sure, you can notice all that stuff because you're like, yeah, exactly, you start to like recognize it. And that's certainly true with language. That's anything that humans get into, it's like when we're first into it, it's all like a blur. Actually, League, this is really funny because one of our buddies has been learning to play League lately. And I'm just remembering when I first started playing this game, like it's actually pretty complicated when it comes down to it. It's actually pretty difficult and somewhat complicated.
It's very complicated.
It was just a blur of colors to me. When I first started playing, I could keep track of like my health bar and like where my champion kind of was. And then that was it. Like I didn't even really fully know like, oh yeah, there's 5 people on both teams. It was just like a mess to me. Like, but yeah, once you play it all the time, now I can see like the tiniest like details and just from familiarity.
Okay, but even in our own culture, when you meet somebody, you're like, hey, my name's Peter, and hey, my name's immediately forget this person's name as soon as
I was going to say, like, sure. Some people like me struggle even with, stories that are familiar to my own native language. I have a hard time remembering characters' names until I've been watching the show for a while. Yeah,
but especially in a new show, so that we just got into a brand new universe. We're in the Demon Slayer universe now, right? Uh-huh. We're trying to figure out the age, it seems like, turn of the century type time. And then they're like, by the way, here's 17 new characters you've never met before.
It's a blur of colors.
Try to figure them out. Now, one thing that I feel like certain animes do really well is they do kind of branding. Like, this person always wears this color, this person always wears this color.
Yeah, cartoons in general, but definitely anime.
They make them different enough to where you'd be able to like, oh, yeah, for sure. Like, this is how I can easily differentiate.
Brock, Misty, got it.
Yeah,
like,
got
totally.
It. But then in real life, it's not always like that. Especially like if you go to like a high school, like a lot of the kids look exactly the same. Guess what? The trends or the brands
they dress
that are in.
the same and they do their hair the same and
So
unless they're one of those people, have you ever met somebody like this? We are so far off topic right now, but I don't care. Have you ever met somebody? It's usually women who dress wildly differently, even do their makeup differently, like day to day. I had a coworker like this once, and I reintroduced myself to her. She looked so different to me. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She's like, "Oh yeah, it was whatever." Like, apparently, it wasn't a big deal. But I was like, "Oh, yeah, you should." At the time, I actually thought of that. I actually thought of like, "Oh yeah, you know how to do it in cartoons, like." Whatever, Ed and Eddie, they all wore the same thing every episode.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I had this friend in high school who she had really straight hair most of the time, but then every once in a while she would not go through the trouble of straightening her hair, and it was like wildly curly, and nobody were like,
knew who she was.
Hi, they'd be like, wait, Samantha, like
that you.
So this is the quiz part of the show.
I'm fine.
You guys at home, if you're watching on twitch.tv/beyondthebasement, if you're watching this on YouTube later on, or if you're listening to this podcast, you can just quiz yourself right here. You can just take part of the quiz. Don't look anything up. Okay, without looking. Just believe.
I'm gonna believe. Okay, all right, quiz me.
What is the name of our main character so far?
Tanjiro.
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 Yes, Tanjiro. Yes. Okay. Now, what color is his hair?
It's like, okay, so it's dark. It's not black though, because it has like a reddish purplish hue to it, and it starts out long and then it gets cut.
It's reddish, yeah. Uh-huh.
It's like, I would say auburn.
What is his sister's name?
Which one?
The one that he becomes a demon.
Nezuko.
Nezuko, okay.
Or he just kind of calls her Nezuko. He sort of skips over that U.
Nezuko.
Yeah. Nezuko.
What? Nice, Steven. Steven's already dropping spoilers. What is his? Can you name any of his siblings?
Takeo.
Takeo, yeah.
Hanako. Yeah, Hanako's one of the little sisters, I think.
Yeah.
Shigeru.
Yeah.
And the youngest one?
I forget what the baby's name is actually now.
Roniko.
Oh, yeah, Roniko. Okay.
Dang. Are these going to be main characters? Don't tell me.
No.
Okay.
What?
They're all dead.
They all just perished.
They all just died. But I was saying, like, are they going to... Okay, all right.
What
whatever.
was the old man's name?
The old man that... Subaru.
So it's not Subaru.
It's close.
Subaru.
It's close.
That's Japanese.
It's close to Subaru. It's Saburo, isn't it?
Saburo, yeah. So Saburo, I think, yeah. What is the...
Sabre?
What is the...
No, it's this RU at the end.
The demon slayer we meet in the end of the episode who saves him.
Okay, his first name I got because it's Giyu. He actually says it because he says that part I caught in the Japanese. He says his last name and then his first name is after that. And we would do it backwards. So Giyu, Giyu is how they transliterated it.
But of course, no one ever talks to someone about the first name.
No. So his last name I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I have no idea.
You take a stab.
It's I know it starts with a T.
Okay.
But it's like timetable or something.
Pretty close.
What is it?
What? It's Tamioka.
Tamioka. Oh yeah, like that. You said this. Like tapioca. Tamioka.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's a good quiz.
It's like Tomioka.
Did I pass?
Tomi.
No, we're not done. What is the person he's going to go visit at the foot of the mountain?
I could tell you his address. Something with a U. I know his last name starts with a U. His first name is Old Man. I don't know.
No one ever cares about their first name. They only care about the last name.
What's his last name?
Urokodaki. Say it. Urokodaki. Yes. All right. So we're getting there.
Okay.
Sakonji.
So we meet our characters. We meet the family. This is actually one of the like cutesiest like anime scenes because they're all so little. Like how the little kids are actually really like adorable. And we get to this idea. Okay, he's selling charcoal. I love how they set him up as he's a poor everyman. You know, he's got this. Not he's a poor everyman, but like his dad has passed away. So
he's a very likable character.
Yeah.
He's very endearing. Like he's hardworking and sweet to his siblings and very supportive to everyone.
Yeah, you can definitely see.
He's a very giving person.
He has taken the caretaker role.
Yeah. Which is real and normal for oldest siblings to, especially when there's when they have either much younger siblings or when like one parent passes away, it's pretty normal for them to kind of like fill in that role a little bit.
And this happens a lot, obviously, in people's lives where because of divorce, because of, sudden death or tragedy or whatever. Yeah. You lose a parent and one of your siblings kind of has to step up into a caretaker role, a gap role, which you love them for it and you like respect them and you friggin', especially when I got older, like my two oldest sisters like really helped raise me to a degree. And so now as adults, when we're kind of on the same playing field, I like look at them and I'm like, you don't know how much you've done for me. And I like love you
Thank
guys
you for
so
everything.
much. And they're like, oh yeah, you're just our brother. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like you mean a lot to me. I really love you. I can't ever express like how much you guys took care of me, but also that can come with a lot of trauma in itself. Having to be a kid, but step up into that role of really trying to take care of your family as an adult needs to. Yeah. That's very tough and very difficult. So it's definitely like, I know this is hard on Tanjiro, but what a gun. Like he's stepping up. He's like, you can see the way he taps Takeo on his head. Like they're there. And Takeo's like, don't touch me. He's like, you're blushing, like.
So then he does it more.
Yeah, he's like, don't try to like baby me, like.
Because he wants to be a man or whatever too. Yeah.
So I love this kind of dynamic, but let's just really focus in on the fact that he has stepped into the role of like a caretaker.
Yeah. He even says, I'll read for you when you get back. Like he puts him to bed or whatever.
And he says, I'm gonna go get you a souvenir from town. Like he's a keeper, right? He's his brother's and sister's keeper.
Yeah. Which is nice. It's nice to have a character that I can say is good and wholesome, and I sure hope will stay that way for the length of the show. Please, God. Not Tanjiro. Anyone but him.
Yeah. So he says, hey, are you going to chop some wood for me while I'm gone? I'm going to take this load of coal down to the town. And Takeo's like, I thought we were going to do it together. Like, there's kind of this camaraderie there.
He looks kind of disappointed and a little bit like he wants to pout, but he's trying not to because he's trying to be a big tough boy for his brother.
Because Tanjiro's stepping up, so now Takeo has to step up as well, help take care of the family. So he says, I'm going to go down to town. I'm going to take care of you guys. I'll be back. I can't take the cart today because it's too snowy. It's been a very strong snowstorm. There's snow all around on the ground. And so I can't take the cart down to the mountain today, but I'm going to go down, just trudge it in and come back. On the way out, he meets Nezuko and he meets Rakuta, and baby is sleeping. Nezuko's like, I've put him down for a nap. I didn't want him to make a big fuss when you left.
Yeah, so she must be, I'm assuming she's second oldest. Then.
She is.
She's certainly the oldest girl.
She's the oldest girl, but I think I thought for the longest time that they were twins because they're like almost the same height and they look like they're the same age. I don't know. He calls her his younger sister.
Which is still, twins can...
But even if they were twins, he could still be the one that came out first.
That's
Who knows?
True.
They always seem to me like they were...
They could be just
paternal
very close
twins.
in
They're
age.
Like
very
paternal
different
twins.
hair.
They
Yeah.
do have different hair, but she, he takes after dad, she takes after mom.
Yeah.
You know how it is with siblings, though, who are like a year and like
But
a
she
month
might,
apart
I
or
was going to
whatever.
say, she might just be like,
Yeah.
they might be Irish twins. They could just be real close together.
Yeah.
So she says, yeah, it's been really hard on the baby ever since dad passed away. So we get this scene. Okay, dad is no longer with us. Tanjiro and Nezuko have really stepped up to help their family. Mom's there kind of doing it on her own. And he says, yeah, he misses dad, but everyone follows you wherever you go, Tanjiro. Like, he's got this like wholesome heart and this caretaker, keeper mentality, and that attracts everybody around him. And you can see that it's not just the case in his family. As he begins to come down the mountain, he says, we don't have an easy life, but we're happy.
That's this. Okay, these next like several lines I really like actually, because there's a little bit of there's some like actual wisdom
happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of actual wisdom here because he says like, yeah, we don't have an easy life, but we're happy. I wish I could sell that to every millennial, every Gen Z, everybody in America right now that's like upset over
some boomers and some older people like
not
you guys.
They learn from somewhere.
Like, you're unhappy not because you don't have the stuff that you want, and here's the thing is it's also not like your circumstances dictate your happiness way less than you think. Your happiness is something you decide. Like, I'm trying to think of whose quote it is. I thought it was Abraham Lincoln, but it may not be. But he says, I've concluded that a man will always be as happy as he makes up his mind to be. In other words, like, you're going to have as much happiness as you determine that you're going to have. It doesn't come from like this stuff around you. And it's, what's interesting is like, I love this because he's a family man. He's like, we're poor. It's not easy, but we do have a happy life. And the thing is that is absolutely true. Some of the best stuff you can possibly do in life, the most like fulfilling things, are stuff that's hard to do. Discipline is hard. It's hard to get up and go running, but like once you get your first like runner's high or whatever, like it's an amazing feeling. You love being in shape. Like there's just so many like rewards to it. So then he says, but life could change suddenly, like the weather. It shifts and it moves. It's not like it's always stays sunny, and it's not like it always snows endlessly. And I'm like, dude, look at this like happy-go-lucky little anime show, like dropping some like some like I don't know if these are supposed to be like references like Japanese proverbs or something like that, but they sure feel like it because
right out of the gate they're just throwing some haymakers. Like you can tell that Tanjiro is not only way wiser beyond his years than some like let's go back. Ash Ketchum is an idiot. He's an idiot still to this day, right?
Even now,
the show's been on for I don't know how many years.
20 years.
15.
20 years, yeah. So he's like a 37-year-old man running around
trying to get
Pikachu, please help. And you're like, oh my gosh, dude. So, but Tanjiro's out here with some wisdom, like, hey, life is tough. Things can be tough. The weather can change, and so can your circumstance. But that doesn't stay forever.
Yeah.
The harsh weather doesn't stay forever. The sun doesn't stay forever. So you kind of have to enjoy everything as it comes.
The good stuff. This is so true. This is what you should like actually feel like. The good stuff is gonna go away. Like the stuff that makes you happy, whatever it is, like those good times are gonna fade, and that's sad. However, the same is true of the snow, like the winter, the times that suck. Like sorrow doesn't last forever either. And that is just seeing it coming, just going through life, seeing that that's the way that it actually is, seeing that coming. Is like if like I said, I wish I could sell it to like everybody in America. I'm like, if you could just have that perspective, like, hey, it won't last forever. The good times aren't gonna last forever. Like if you're riding high and there's you got all the money you need, that may not always be around. So like you should be prepared. Like have your heart ready more than anything. And the same thing, like I know it sucks right now. Like you've lost somebody you love or whatever it is, but that doesn't last either. And such is life. And I just love that. It's just like very proverbial wisdom. So then he drops the
ominous statement.
Whenever happiness is destroyed, there's the smell of blood. Dang it, we need to email our Japanese friend. I keep hearing and seeing lines like this and going, I can kind of tell that there's a translation thing happening there that we're missing.
That sounds like a proverb. That sounds like a saying.
Yeah, well, and the fact that it's worded in a way that we wouldn't really say it like that.
Yeah.
I think there's something else that we kind of missed there.
So Tanjiro gets into the village, and immediately it is apparent to us that
people are just like prairie dogging out of their houses. Tanjiro? Like,
Can you do this for me? Can
come
you fix
do these things
Can you
for
change
me.
this light for me?
Yeah, he comes down.
Save me from my despair.
Everyone loves him. He's kind of like a brother, a big brother, like, and a caretaker to the village.
Yeah.
He comes down to sell coal because that seems like to be the way that
That's his
That's what the cool kids
occupation.
Yeah, all the cool kids. You're not cool unless you sell coal.
I'll
So
tell ya.
he comes down to be able to sell coal to the people for New Year's, it appears, but also so he can make some extra money, so everyone will be full at his house back up on the mountain.
What a guy.
And
He's like,
there's an old lady who's like, "Oh, Tanjiro, I didn't think you'd come to the mountain on a day like this." Obviously, it's pretty common for him to come to the mountain, but it's pretty uncommon for him to like fight this kind of weather.
Well, it seems like his mom was even saying, "I didn't expect you to go today," and then he gets there and they're like, "What are you doing here?" So it seems like nobody expected him to do it, and he did it anyway.
It is a lot of snow.
Yeah.
So he's out there. Everyone's popping out. "Hey, Tanjiro, I'll take some coal. You know, it's cold right now. I'll take some coal." You got people asking him to help him with something, and some guy pops out with a bloody nose, and I don't know if it's his wife or his mom.
no, I think he was eating at this restaurant or something, and that's what I thought it was. He's like eating at the restaurant, and somebody accuses him of
There's an
breaking a
angry
plate.
old lady, regardless.
She's beating this man or boy,
with
I don't know.
a broom.
And she says, he says, "Please, Tanjiro, help me. I've been accused of breaking this vase." And he kind of has it wrapped up.
And he's like, please sniff it.
Yeah, and Tanjiro like goes over,
What?
sniffs it, and he goes, "I smell a cat." And the lady goes, "Oh, it was one of the cats that broke this." And he goes, "Oh, Tanjiro, thank you so much." And first off, like, I don't...
Again, that's a very level 1 RPG thing to happen too. Like your
Just
first mission is this like random thing.
Increase scent. Identify the scent.
Yeah.
This reminds me of Gon from Hunter
Hunter x Hunter.
X
Yeah.
Hunter. Yeah, he's got this like crazy nose. And I'm like,
He can smell different scents of different things.
Of all the built-in like skills for like a anime character to have, increased scent would be never the one that I would have chosen. Or like,
dude, he's Wolverine. He smells enemies.
I've got a great new show for you. Okay, it's about a guy and his sister, and he's got a crazy nose. He can smell anything.
He has a super sniffer.
He's got a super sniffer. Yeah, he's over here with Gus. Got a super sniffer.
Oh, I forgot about that. It's like,
so then, yeah, some guy's like, "Oh, Tanjiro, will you help me carry this up?" So everyone's kind of wants him. He's definitely a caretaker, and he's got
a handyman.
But remember what Nezuko said about him. People kind of follow you wherever you go, right?
Right.
So he's got this like leadership, big brother capability. And again, we hope he's making money off these tasks. We hope, but maybe he's just taking care of people while trying to sell.
I just have a feeling
goal.
he's not getting money for a lot of those things, just based on his character. He seems like a very generous, giving, kind soul.
Yeah.
And I think these people are so comfortable asking him for help because he is a helpful person.
I would think
he sold all his charcoal, so he made some money.
He helps them, and they help him by buying his.
We should
coal.
set up a GoFundMe for Tanjiro, or at the very least, we should like set up a networking thing where he can have mobile transactions and.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Because kind people get taken advantage of. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, you got to look out for him.
So he sells all of his coal.
Yep.
But it seems like because of all those extra things, it took longer than he wanted because he's like, "Oh man, it's so late."
Well, also it's the middle of winter, so it gets darker sooner. I mean, we live very far north, so it literally gets dark at like 4:20 here at the very like.
But regardless,
Okay,
it definitely seems like things took longer than he wanted because he's kind of like, as he's going back up the mountain, he's talking about how, "Oh man, it's so late already."
So he runs into Saburo.
Then old man
Saburo.
He runs into WRX.
Yeah.
Saburo.
Impreza.
He's like, "Hey, you're not going up that mountain. It's dangerous. Get in here."
And he calls him granddad.
And as
he's a respected elder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
like,
isn't that the term? It's not like the proper thing. The Japanese culture thing is like, anybody who's an elder is your elder.
And if it's a peer-ish kind of person that's a little older, you call him, and you're fond of them, you'll call them brother or sister. Like it's just a very common thing.
Everybody's family, apparently.
It kind of reminds me of
like a term of respect and endearment, I think.
Our culture is like, we'll say, "Hey, what's up, brother?" Like, "What's up, bro?" But we don't really mean that as like, "You're my brother." Normally.
Yeah.
That's just kind of something we'll throw out there.
Well, we also don't live. I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. That like in most countries, basically all countries in all of human history, the thing that defines the country is not really even just where it is. In fact, if you go back far enough in ancient history, when people said the word nation, they didn't think of the way we think of it. They didn't think of like geopolitical lines and like a currency and like common law and, you know, whatever governance and stuff like that. Like that wasn't the first thing that came to mind. When you said nation or a group of people, like that's you literally meant ethnicity. Like that was the first thing.
Demographic of people.
Yeah, that they were the same like race or ethnicity, and that they had the same religion generally as well. Like your religion wasn't something you chose or something you were born into, right? We think of it as something you choose. Like these ideas that we have now are like pretty modern and new, but that wasn't the case. Not only that, but like the world was just literally smaller, so to speak, meaning the odds that I would run into somebody just randomly in America, if you just like threw a rock and hit one of 330 million people from all over the place, many of whom either themselves immigrated or their parents were, the odds of like hitting somebody I'm like blood related to are nil almost, right? It's like extremely small. It's possible, but it's very small. Like it's a big deal when you meet somebody who's got the same last name and you're like, oh, but even then you're like, I don't know. I don't know you. It's just like you're just some rando who has the same last name as me. But the truth is, like, if you were to live in a culture like this, in a island nation, you know, 150 years ago or whatever, in that world, everybody's the same, like, bloodline essentially. So calling somebody brother or sister makes a lot more sense, because you could probably, in that case, you could probably throw a rock and hit a cousin pretty easily. You know what I mean? But for real, like, you just think of it. If it wasn't your cousin, like, you go far enough back, like, even just a few generations, everybody's a lot more closely related in a world where there's just less humans.
Yeah.
And where you're literally on an island. So there's not this, like, you know, cross-pollination, so to speak.
Some of us did throw rocks and hit our cousins, and I got in trouble for that.
You shouldn't.
I got in deep trouble. But I kind of like it, too, because it does harken back to, I don't know, especially in some other cultures, they're very much more communal. Like,
yes,
the Israeli culture, like, when you go into one of their shops, they're like, "Oh, come in." They want you to sit down. They want you to. They'll feed you. They'll give you drinks and whatnot. They'll have a conversation, and that's like the standard culture is like incredible respect, bartering, talking, kind of this communal thing, and getting to know other people is pretty high on their priorities. And it seems like the same. Other cultures sometimes are way more communal. You know, the Western culture can be very individualistic. To where like I have my own house, my own car, my own room, my own space. I do all my own thing. And some of that is cool because there's a lot of liberty and freedom. Some of that's very unhealthy because you're not relying on other people. You're not part of an actual strong community. We say community.
Local community.
It's
like
the worst. Like it's such a buzzword. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right. It's overused.
Like are these people that you bleed together with, you work together with, people that you like build stuff together with, or these people just happen to share one common ideal of yours? Because those people aren't really your community. There's people that you have something in common with, right?
Right.
But
you just live in the same place and that's it.
Right. But other places that they actually do have very communal lifestyles where they are all building stuff together, all working together, the bleeding together, that unites us one another. I think we're meant for more of that style of life. And so depression comes, I feel like, a little easier when you're so isolated.
You feel alone. Yeah.
So I kind of like the whole like brother, granddad.
Yeah.
One time I was in line at a shopping store, and I had one of my little kids, I think it was Destiny. This is my little daughter, and she's with me, and got her in my arms, and we're checking out, and we had just been over at Grandma and Grandpa's house, and she's like, oh, and she just learned to say like, Grandpa, Grandma, you know, whatever. And there's just this old guy right in front of us, and she just looks at him, and he kind of like looks at her, and he waves, you know, and she goes, Grandpa, and she just
naturally,
and he just like reaches out, and like I had no trouble, like maybe I should have been a little selective, but like I just hand this old guy my baby, and he's just like, oh, hey sweetie, how you doing? And they had this like sweet conversation, and I was like, it just connected us at this deep human level.
That's amazing, actually.
I was like, why can't it always be like that? Where I just like, I want to trust people. Sometimes things teach you otherwise, but I want to have that deep connection with people. We're all humans. We all have red blood in our veins. Like that's a beautiful way to be able to connect with people. And so I think we can learn something here from Demon Slayer.
Saburo.
And Saburo, yeah.
Okay, so he does take him in, and here's the thing is...
He doesn't just take him in, he like makes him come in.
Yeah, he forces him.
Because Tanjiro is like, oh no, it's okay, I can smell the bad things coming. And he's like, get your butt in here, boy. I mean, I'm paraphrasing.
I literally laughed out loud the first time he said that phrase. I was like, oh, it's okay, I can smell stuff. I'm like, That's your reasoning? It's not I have a weapon or I'm trained or I'm fast. It's, no, I can
He
smell
does
stuff.
have a hatchet, but it's like he doesn't.
I would have been like it's okay. I did wilderness camp or something.
I can smell the danger coming.
Does that giant nose stop arrows and then shut up and get in here?
Yeah, he's like, get in here. The demons are coming out.
Yeah, he literally tells him, don't argue.
And he relents and he goes in.
Yeah.
Which, okay. He like humbles himself and listens to the old man.
So he feeds him the meal. And gosh, they always, I said this during, we were watching it too, like they always make the food look so good in anime. Like the Japanese people and their food, it's a strong relationship. So he takes him and he feeds him and he says the man-eating demons always come out at night. You know, he basically, I'll let you go at like first light, but like the demons come out. And this is where we get the first hint of like, and this is the part I'm trying to figure out as I'm watching.
This world is not normal.
Is like how much knowledge, what do people think of demons, this idea of demons? Because it sure seems like in this interaction and the next like moments that Tanjiro's never seen one and that he's at best only heard of this type of thing.
It seems like they're kind of playing on like the myths and legends, you know, like
it's almost like a Jersey Devil, Bigfoot a little bit.
Don't stay outside of the boogeyman will get you or whatever.
Right.
We kind of say these things as like jokes, but here what they're kind of saying is like, no, this isn't a joke. That etymology came from something. There is demons out there.
Right.
It's not just something your grandma tells you for fun. This is based on reality. And here you can see Saburo like really actually believes this. And he says, yeah, the man-eating demons always come out at night. And he goes, the demons, they wouldn't come in your house, right? That's why you want me in here?
He's so chill. He's like, no, they would.
Yeah, they'll come in your house. What? And he's like, oh, if that's the case, then everyone would get eaten. And you can tell, and he's over there like having a puff on his pipe before he goes to bed. He
doesn't say anything.
He says, that's why we have demon hunters, to slay them and protect us.
Yeah, to slay them and protect us. Let's see, I wrote something else. And he says, they protect us since way back when. Mm-hmm. Meaning like there's this like long-standing like tradition. You said this in the car to Becca when you were explaining the show. I actually thought this was a good way of explaining it, which is like there's some lore. There are some things that are true in history that become lore, that become like, they seem like a tall tale. And so that's what they become, since they're not verified, but they did actually happen. Like there was something real there. And so there's examples of this in ancient history where something gets passed down as like just a legend or something like that. And then they uncover like a village and they're like, oh wait, this was a real place. And this, old tall tale turned out to actually be probably kind of true, legends of giants or something like that.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, giants, like we see these things throughout history. Everywhere, almost every culture has like a story of giants. Now that should tell you something.
Dragons and a worldwide flood. Those are the three things that are like every culture freaking has.
But that should tell you something in itself. But we say, oh, giants, the Irish are like, oh, look at the Giants Causeway, right? This is where the giants knocked over these stones and caused this like, stair step. Mm-hmm. This is the giant seat, or whatever. Or we say, Paul Bunyan knocked down the Grand Canyon, and we kind of create these like lore, and it becomes like this mythological legend, tall tale, like you're saying. But that doesn't mean everything wasn't based on something originally, right? Maybe it was a god of the gaps. We just created a legend to fill in for entertainment, or maybe it was based on something. Speaking of giants, you've seen some of these these paleontological like digs where they dig up these giant bones,
literal giants,
12, 13 feet
humans
tall or larger. And they find their beds and they find their bones and they find their coffins, and we go, wait a second, maybe there were at certain times
it wasn't so much of a tall tale,
there were giant something or another, and maybe that is how our tall tale began, and then we slowly started blaming, it was the giants, it was whatever. It's kind
of the William Wallace story,
Yes.
It's like in Scotland, like he was almost certainly like a real person, but like to get to the fact of it all might be a little more difficult. But doesn't mean just because there's myth surrounding William Wallace doesn't mean he wasn't real, and doesn't mean that the uprising and the various events that we contribute aren't real. Like surely they were. It's just difficult to tell like what's what. So he tells him. So what am I trying to say? Tanjiro starts to go to sleep, and he says, he's been alone ever since he lost his family. He must be very lonely. Next time this is the saddest thing in the world. Next time I see him, I'm going to bring all my siblings. Ugh.
I'm going to bring my family down.
And I'm going to tell him that there's no demons and you're safe and everything's going to be okay.
It's almost like I wonder if his family was killed by demons. Like
that's what I think.
He doesn't really explain, but I have a feeling.
I think they were. Nonetheless, because he's the one because he has the most like visceral like reaction so far of anybody in the show to this idea of demons. Like his mom didn't mention demons on the way down.
No.
But you see Tanjiro, he remembers his grandma. He says, "Oh, actually, my grandma would say the same thing."
Was he saying the same thing about demons?
Demons, yeah, about demons.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's what he was saying. So
he has a memory of himself. He doesn't have a scar on his forehead.
Yes. That's interesting. We like the fact that we open up. Our main character has got a scar on his head. Nobody explains it, and nobody mentions it.
Yeah.
So either he's had the scar for a long time, or it's a birthmark or something. But then we see this baby memory of him, and he doesn't have the scar. So we know it's a scar. Yeah,
he's probably like 4 or 5 years old, and he's remembering his grandma. And yeah, he has no scar.
Does it have to do with how his dad died? Don't spoil it for me.
Interesting.
Okay.
So, yes, we have his memory. He doesn't have the scar.
There is a story to that.
My grandma would say the same thing. So then he says, he wakes up in the morning, he heads back to his house, and again, that ominous line, whenever happiness is destroyed, it comes with the scent of blood.
But then he says it out loud. He's like, "Oh, I smell blood."
It comes with, and then you see him go, the smell of blood, and then he runs up the mountain.
I don't like it.
He sees Nezuko, and he starts freaking out.
It's like it happened minutes after he left, because she still has baby what's his face like with her.
Yeah.
Like she was trying to protect him. He mentions that later. Like she was trying to protect him.
But it would make sense that she's kind of like the nanny. She takes care of him anyways, while the mom is like doing chores.
Okay, fair enough. So she looks after him a lot.
We don't know when it happened.
But they're all dead. They're all freaking dead, and he doesn't know what happened. And he's like,
brutal. It is bloody. There's
the inside of the house is very bad. The outside of the house is pretty bad.
Nezuko is blood everywhere. Laying over the baby as if to try to protect it.
People told me like, "Oh, the show's a little more like like wholesome or whatever than Attack on Titan."
In the very first episode,
you people lied. Okay?
Dead children that have been massacred.
It's not quite as bad.
Ranjiro.
It's not as bad as watching it happen.
The baby Ranjiro.
Raku? No, what's the baby's name?
It's a T.
Runiko or something.
Ratuko or something like that.
Rontico.
I wrote it down somewhere. I'll find
something.
it.
Rodako?
No.
Oh.
Well, anyway, the one that was sleeping when he left that didn't get to say goodbye to him. Yeah. Rakuta.
That's the text. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Anyway, she's still trying to protect him. And I'm guessing if everyone else is cold except for her, I mean, it is snowing, so it's been at least 10 hours.
Good point. Yeah, it takes a second for the body to cool
8 to 10 hours-ish, maybe 5 because of the cold.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's been several hours at least.
When the demons came out, supposedly, yeah.
Yeah, you presume it happened like that, like the night before. Now, here's the thing is, it's good fortunes for him that guy stopped him, because I mean, Tanjiro would just be dead too. You would presumably, like, what would he have been able to do against this thing?
So we think one way or the other. Now, his family was pretty defenseless. They had a bunch of kids there, and no, like
women and children.
No
only.
Men or no fighters.
Yeah.
So we always would think, oh, if only I was there, I could have done this differently, or I could have stopped this, or I could have said this.
He's still young himself.
There's always that kind of survivor's guilt / like thought process, you know. When you lose somebody, you go, man, I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have gone and done this. Or what if I would have done this? You know, recently I just had my father-in-law pass away, and, we found out that he was having some chest pains, and now, his wife was saying, oh, I should have made him go to the doctor. I should have made him go do this or whatever. And you kind of always think, oh, I would have made different decisions. I would have been able to make a difference. But she tried to get him to go, and he wouldn't go. So it's like, okay, what's she going to do? Put a gun to his head and be like, get in this car right now?
Right.
I feel like we could always go back. And in grief, that's one of our stages, is like, no, I should. You take the guilt. You say, I should have been able to do something differently. When sometimes it was always going to be out of your hands. And you have to come to accept the fact that you can't go back in the past and change anything. All you can do is go forward.
Yeah.
And here he picks up Nezuko. He's running. And he kind of is having this conversation. I'm an idiot for staying with Saburo at night. But really, like you're saying, that actually probably saved his life.
Yeah, probably.
And now he says, I can't go back. I can't change it. All I can do is try to save Nezuko. If I get back to a doctor, maybe I can save her in time. But he's running. It's freezing cold. It's icy outside. He's breathing deep. He's trying to carry somebody. That's incredibly difficult. When you're trudging through snow, it's up to your knees. It is so hard.
It's really hard work, dude.
And it was still snowing, too, so the air is really cold.
Yeah. But he makes a promise here. I love the line where he's like, your big brother, I promise you, or I swear to you, your big brother is not going to let you die. Like, I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Which makes perfect sense. Like, you just lost your entire family. You're gonna do your damnedest to make sure you don't lose one more if you can help it.
Did
right?
we
There's
mention
even a chance.
the fact that Nezuko, before he left talks about how the youngest boy misses his father since he passed away, and he's really attached to. So like he's already lost his dad, and now he's lost all the rest of his family.
Yeah,
Nezuko's the one.
She's the only one in his family that's still alive.
Yeah. So, imagine even a sibling you didn't like that much. If like the rest of your family was just wiped out, you become best friends like pretty quickly. You just get over whatever it was.
So he's running with Nezuko on his shoulders. He's pledging, your big brother's going to save you. I'm going to get you to a doctor no matter what it takes. As this is happening, Nezuko, we see her hands kind of begin to flinch a little bit. She kind of
hands twitch, and she like sits up, and her hair changes, and she starts growling.
She starts to scream,
and her eyes open up, and
as this is happening, she starts to kind of like move. It kind of shifts his balance, his weight, and he begins to run towards the cliffside. Right as that happens, she rears up. We see her eyes; they are pink. Her face is veiny. She has fangs. Gross. And she roars. Right as it happens, he's unable to see. All he knows is she kind of moved, he got knocked off, and they both fall off of this cliff. And it looks like it's a pretty far fall.
He gets kind of dazed a little bit, and he's like, the snow saved me. That's what made me fall. And then he sits up, and his eyes are kind of blurry, and he sees her standing up off in the distance, and she's got blood on her. And it looks like The Grudge a little bit. It's true. And the tips of her hair have turned orange, which he somehow doesn't notice. Like,
maybe she's going Super Saiyan.
I noticed that right away the first time I watched it, and this time too. Like, that's it, because it's bright orange.
Yeah.
And it happened while he was, carrying her. It was black, and then when she twitched, it started to change. And so anyway, she's standing there, and he's like, "Oh, don't stand. You don't have to stand. Don't try to stand. I'll carry you, Nezuko. We gotta get you to a doctor. Everything's gonna be okay." And it's like he hasn't looked at her face yet,
or realized that she's been growling at him.
They like do the anime thing where her head is down and she has like no facial features. Yeah. It's just her hair and like the outline of her face and just like shadow. As he walks up to her, and then she lifts up her eyes, and they're all creepy and like veiny, and she's got fangs, and she's like, "Rah!" And she like attacks him.
Yeah, whoever the voice actress is, just this episode alone, like it's mostly like, all right, imagine getting that script, be like, okay, you have 3 lines at the beginning,
growl.
Then guttural screaming for the next 20 minutes.
So growling and screaming, but for the whole thing.
We always would make fun of the Stranger Things, because in the we had the post captioned on.
Oh yeah,
it would always say like the like
squelching,
chittering and squelching. So we're like, oh man, I hate the chittering and squelching.
Not the chittering, anything but that.
I think this is funny here in this scene. He falls off and he lands, and when he lands, he's cushioned like by the powdered snow. And now Eric was making this point earlier, like unless that is very powdery, like that snow can really fresh. Down.
Still gonna ring your bell, icy, man,
and it can kill you. But he lands in the snow and he goes, "Oh, the snow saved me." And then he also remembers, but it was also the snow that caused me to slip. That's a really interesting point there. I think there may be more
foreshadowing happening right there.
So that's what I can't tell so far, because I'm only 1 episode in. Like, I don't know what to expect. Like, I'm not. Whoever this isn't Isayama. Like, I don't know if this is like a once in a generation like writer, but I also don't want to just like pass over details. So I'm trying to pay attention to everything.
Yeah.
That's
what
I definitely think that the fact that just before that he's saying, while I was just casually sleeping at I can't say his name now.
Saburo.
Saburo's house. Saburo's house. My whole family was being slaughtered. So like he feels guilty if he wishes he would have been with his family.
Yeah.
But also because he wasn't with his family, that's what saved him.
The very thing that caused him to slip is the thing that saved him. The very thing that he feels guilty about is probably what saved his life.
Exactly.
Now maybe that goes forward. That's just a very interesting point. There was a time where I was playing tag with a young child. Me and him were probably like 12 or something like that. We were running around on this old death trap of a slide that they used to have back in the 90s, the good kind,
Back when playgrounds
back before
we
were
like
afraid
of
doing anything fun.
Yeah, where the freaking slides were like 2 stories long, had all these metal features on them. And
epic. Oh my gosh, the metal slides. Remember how badly they would burn your legs in the summer?
So bad.
So this one was like super tall. You had to climb a ladder on it. And it went down and around and around and around, right? And so you would be able to get up on top, and you could like hop down from like story to story and slide down or whatever. A lot of times we just jump off, and like I'm like, how did you not break your kneecaps doing that?
That's why they don't make slides like that anymore. They like don't they don't want any kid to ever get. Kids will figure out a way. Like kids always find a way to hurt themselves. Like Zaya's done a great job, but like the slides now, they just put like it's giant tubes, like 0 way to fall out. You'd have to jump off like backwards or jump on top of it, which they do anyway. But
so I was chasing this kid. We were all playing tag together, right? And this kid was like running up a slide, and I think I was it. And like I was gonna like go up the stairs, and he went to like go jump off. But as he went to jump off, like his leg got caught, and he was able to grab with like one hand, and he was basically hanging over the tip of this metal slide, like neck first. It's like, he's got one hand and like one foot, and he's trying to cling to, but he's like losing his grip, and he's right about to drop onto this end of this metal slide neck first. And he's like freaked out, screaming, "Oh my gosh!" All the other kids like bolt. Like
they run. Like, they don't help him.
I don't know. Like it happens so quickly. Adrenaline hits, And I see this kid, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, help me, help me, help me!" So I'm like, okay. Like on 3, let go, right? Because I know that like he's gonna fall. There's no way I can stop him. I can't carry him. I'm not strong enough. Plus he was kind of way up. Mm-hmm. All I know is I can jump off of like this. I can kind of vault off of this like railing, and I could push him. And if I pushed him hard enough, we'd both fall on the grass past the metal end of the slide.
Wow.
So I just like, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. We both run. He kind of like lets go at the right time. I pushed him. We both just like fell, and we landed on the grass, and that still hurt. I hurt a lot.
For sure, yeah.
But he was alive, and none of us had
nobody
broken
had a
bones
broken
or
neck.
whatever.
Nobody was paralyzed. No one became.
Yeah, it was just interesting because it's like, okay, technically I was the reason where maybe his life was a little bit in danger, but I also saved his life. So I
was like, where's the story going?
I am
makes
Snow.
Sense.
Okay.
I definitely see more stuff that ties into that whole imagery that goes forward in the show, but I don't know if I should comment on it because spoilers. But
I'll figure it out. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, we're coming along.
All right, so she attacks him, and
he shoves his hatchet up in her mouth.
Yeah, he puts the bar in her mouth, and she's got the crazy teeth now. Yeah. And he actually starts to remember the dude's. He's like, oh, he told me about these like man-eating demons or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but
she's like not, analyzing it.
She's not a man-eating demon. She's been a human ever since she was born. Like he's been around for her whole life. He remembers it. He's like, but she doesn't smell like her anymore. So the smell thing keeps coming. Like
she's lost
10
her
times.
scent.
She doesn't smell like Nezuko anymore, but she also doesn't smell like the other smell I smelled at home.
He says there was another scent that was there.
So he's basically analyzing whether or not she is responsible for killing his family.
Yeah, right. He's trying to figure out. You could tell
he's ruling it out.
You know, he's smarter than the average kid. He's got some detective stuff. He's got some Armin traits going on.
Yeah,
he's strategizing.
Goes, wait a second. She didn't have any blood in her mouth. She didn't have any blood on her hands, and she was defending. Rutoku on the ground.
Yeah.
So I don't think she's eaten anybody, but she like...
Yeah, she didn't have any blood in her mouth or hands.
But she has this desire, and as she's on top of him, she grows in size and stature.
And then he's like, she just grew in size. She's getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is where it actually gets like... Oh man,
he gets emotional again.
He realizes kind of what's happened, like that she's like turned, and he's like, "You suffered, didn't you?" And like his compassion, like he's understanding what happened. He's like, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't there.
I wasn't there to save you."
And that's the pain of it. And he's like, "Don't turn, please, don't turn into a demon." And he said that, and I was like,
his eyes start to fill up with tears. He starts crying, and he's like, "Nezuko, fight! Don't turn into a demon, please. Hang in there." And then there's like this dramatic pause moment, and then you see tears start falling out of her eyes and hitting him in the face, and
she's crying too.
And then she starts to change back to normal. Her eyes go back to the way,
at least a little bit.
They're still pink, but
she's still to give her pause, and because she got so big, he was losing the fight. She was about to get him, and his words somehow stirred up something inside of her. And as that's happening, tears begin to fall. She kind of slows up. They're still in this locked, position, but we begin to see somebody running very swiftly towards them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so homeboy runs in very swiftly is like an understatement. He's like at least as fast as like a motorcycle, I think.
But he's
very, very quick.
So he's running with his hand on his sword, which is definitely not the fastest way to run. And like if you're that far away, you don't even have your hand on your sword, but whatever, it looks way cooler. So he doesn't know how to run, but he's like running,
He's got dead silence on.
Yeah, he's got
go faster.
What's the old school Japanese game where you had to like assassinate people?
Not Bushido Blade.
I have no idea.
Is Tenchu Stealth Assassin?
Yeah, I think so. You'd run with your hand. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Tenchu. Yeah. He's got like the Tenchu run going on, and he's running with his hand on his katana, and he's like running, and he shows up, and right at the last moment, Nezuko hears him running. She stops. She turns. The samurai like flings out his sword and begins to chop, and it's a super strong chop. And as that slight moment of respite hits, Tanjiro takes the ability and he throws her down, moving himself in the path of the sword. The path of the sword barely clips the back of his hair, cuts off his man bun, basically.
Very fast.
He gets a haircut and loses his ponytail.
Immediately, yeah. And they both roll from the impact. It is like an incredibly strong slash, one that like sends a shockwave all around them, kicks up snow, and they both roll into a tree. As he's getting up, kind of coming to because of the incredible
blast. It like
blast.
shows his sword though right before this.
Yeah, it says. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, what was that?"
Destroy demons on the sword.
I'm really grateful they put that in the subtitles. I wouldn't know what that sword said, but it's actually pretty awesome. Yeah,
dude, I want all my swords to say destroy
demons on there.
Let's go.
Yeah, can I get that tattooed somewhere? But please don't make it say like, "Look at this dumb white boy," because I wouldn't know.
Yeah, so we see the samurai. He flings the sword out. It says, destroy demons. And he says, why are you protecting that thing? Tanjiro starts to get up and he says, it's my sister, not a thing. Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't actually record this part, but basically what he says is your sister's a demon, right? Isn't that what he says?
he says, so
that thing isn't your sister
He's
anymore.
like, that thing is your sister? Yeah. And he gosh, I don't have written out very detailed either. He says, well, she's a demon now, so naturally I'm going to have to decapitate your sister.
Well, first he explains what's happened to her because he goes, this is my sister. And he goes, that thing isn't your sister anymore. Her blood got exposed to demon blood. That's how these things reproduce naturally.
Well, he says that after. He says, well, yes, but he says that here. But he says it after Tanjiro says she hasn't killed anybody though. Plus, there was another scent in my house. Tanjiro kind of does the thing that kids do, where he doesn't explain the whole story, sort of jumps in with details, and he says she hasn't killed anybody. There was another scent in my house. It killed my family. It wasn't her. So he's trying to defend her. He's saying she hasn't done anything wrong anyway. It was probably somebody or something else.
Well, Tomioka sprints at them with his sword out, and Tanjiro goes to clutch Nezuko and goes to land on top of her and kind of protect her with his body.
Yeah, but he grabs her anyway.
But Tomioka grabs her. He snatches back and he doesn't a second.
It's like lightning fast. It's almost like you don't even see it.
That's how
we're seeing it from his perspective. He doesn't even understand how Nezuko's gone.
Yeah.
He's like, what? Where? How?
That's when he says, yeah, it's my job to slay demons, so I'm going to decapitate your sister. And that's when Tanjiro says, no, she hasn't killed anyone. She was the only one who was protecting my sister. There was another scent at my house. Somebody slaughtered my family. Please don't kill her. And he says, no, it's simple. Her wounds have been exposed to demon blood. And that's how man-eating demons multiply. When you have wounds that are exposed to demon blood. And he says, no, she won't hurt me. I'm going to turn her back into a human. Tomioka says.
He specifically says she knows who I am. Even in this form.
Yeah.
And he's actually kind of correct. She was about to eat him and then she stopped. Even at this point, she's already kind of turned a little bit. And he's like, no, she knows who I am, even in her weird possessed whatever form.
When did they show her shrink back to normal?
Oh, when they both hit the tree.
The tree is when she shrinks back to normal
size. So he informs him. He's like, listen, she can't be healed. Once somebody becomes a demon, there's no turning back. And again, this is my inner what am I trying to say? Not critic, but skeptic. Where I'm like, is that? Are you sure about that? And that's all I can think when somebody says,
the proof.
Yeah, should prove to me that's the way. And he says, I'll find. So he responds, I'll find a way.
Tanjiro, says, I'll find a way no matter what. I'll find the one who slaughtered my family.
Yeah.
Please don't take anyone else away from me.
Dude, that line. He just literally lost his whole family. Please don't kill anyone.
He
this is the closest thing I have.
He sees all of them in his mind for a second. And then that's when he gets down in, the humble position.
He bows down.
Yeah.
Puts his hands on the floor, puts his forehead on the ground and says, please don't kill her.
I'm begging you, please don't kill my sister.
That seems to offend the demon slayer.
Well, it offends his sensibilities as a warrior.
He clenches up for a second and then he gets mad. And at first you're like, whoa, you're a jerk, bro. But then you kind of realize it's coming from a place where he's like, how can you expect to want to heal your sister if you're so weak yourself?
Yeah.
So he says, don't you ever give you a chance to kill somebody. Stop groveling. If groveling worked, your family would still be alive. Oh, bro, could you sugarcoat
because I mean, imagine they were probably all begging the demon not to eat them. Please stop, please, right. And they weren't.
He couldn't give him the crap sandwich. Like, hey, you do really good things. Also, you should work on this, but you do good things too. Like, he just drops it. He's just like,
I like that you suck. I like that you protected your sister. Groveling will never work, and let's work on that together. No, so he says, can a weakling who can't take the initiative, such as in such a situation, heal his sister? Can a weakling hunt down the enemy? Don't even make me laugh. The weak have no rights or choices. Now, the protector in me gets stirred up when someone says this, and I'm like, how dare you? Every man, was created in the image of God. Every man has the same rights, the right to life and liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's what we believe. But at the same time,
those rights are only exist. So rights only exist if you can practice them, right? It's only really a right. It's only something you can actually do it. And in this world and in this universe, this is, yes, it's fake, but again, Japan circa 1890 or something like that. At that point in time, your rights, in a Wild West world, your rights and your choices are only up to the amount of strength that you actually have. Because if you're weak, because his next line, this is what explains. His next line is, their only fate is to be crushed by the strong. And the weak have no rights or choices. That's technically true. You don't want it to be true.
Yeah, when someone violates someone else's natural rights, we go, how dare you? That shouldn't be the case. But it is the case sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes aggressors rise up and they go and they use they
take away your rights
their strength,
and your choices.
And they take away people's rights. And if you're too weak to protect your own natural rights, to defend yourself, to stand up for what you believe in, to be able to fight back, your choices are gone. They've made the choice for you and you can't do anything about it.
That's exactly right. So the thing is to practice rights and to have choices, if you're in the quote weak category in terms of natural selection, as it were, if you're your rights and your choice making and stuff like that only exists because somebody else is being strong for you. And that's what you're kind of hinting at earlier, is we have this instinct as as men, as parents or whatever too. It's you do have rights, you do have choices, but again, you can only exercise them. Somebody who's 8 years old only has those in as much as you provide the strength to make sure that they can. Because if they're just left out to themselves, somebody else or something else is going to take it from them.
Yeah, in the United States, when our founders crafted our country, they recognized the rights were not given by men. We don't give somebody else the right to life or liberty, pursuit of happiness. God gives you those rights. Those are natural rights, as John Locke would call them. But those rights we enshrine with the government to protect those rights. Yeah. That's why we kind of
establish a strength in order to make sure that they exist.
So we created laws to protect the rights, the natural rights of people. Now, sometimes your rights get infringed on even by governmental authorities or even by other people who aren't supposed to do it, but it does. What can you do about that is his question, basically.
Yeah.
If you're too weak to be able to protect your own rights, you don't have those. You may have the right, but you can't practice those rights anymore.
Yeah.
Your choices are made for you.
So he drops a knowledge bomb on him here, though. He drops what I think is a key plot point. He says, again, I have not seen the show, so I don't actually know, but he says, the demons might know how to cure your sister, which to me means the demons know how to cure your sister.
Which that's a long way from 2 sentences ago.
Yeah,
you can't
impossible.
Cure your sister.
There
it's
is no way.
And then he says, well, the demons might know. Wait a second. Within 2 lines, you're already contradicting yourself.
He says, don't think that they will respect you or your wishes.
Naturally. I don't have any respect for you either.
That line.
Was that your way of protecting her?
This is the drill sergeant coming out in Tomioka. He's like, get up, you maggot. You think you can protect your sister like that? Get back in line. Give me 20. You're weak.
I realized the reason that he gets so upset with him, though, is, because, he kind of reveals it with his internal monologue that's coming up. But he sees something in Tanjiro, the same thing that Nezuko talks to him about before he leaves. There's something special about him. He has something inside of him that makes him different. He has a strength. He has an inner strength. But also, like you were saying, his dad died and he has to take on all this responsibility now, and he could get a big chip on his shoulder and begrudge it all and hate everything, but he doesn't. He has a good attitude and he has internal strength and he makes the best of the situation. He's very strong. There is a special something about him. Well, the fact that he protects his sister instead of just runs away from her, the fact that he doesn't just try to kill her when he realizes she's a monster, he's thinking things through. There's something about him that's different, and I think that's why he gets mad when he sees him groveling, because he's like, you're better than this. Stop acting like that.
Yeah, and he sees his goal.
Right.
His goal is like, okay, I gotta protect my sister. I gotta cure her. I've gotta save her. And he's like, well, you're never gonna get it done like that. So quit wasting our time.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah,
it is exactly right. Like, listen, I see where your heart's at. I can respect that, but this is your method here is not gonna work. Mm-hmm. Like, basically, you're lucky.
He's
it's
trying
me.
to light a fire under him.
Yes.
Yeah,
you're lucky it's Tomioka, not demons, because he's saying, I know demons. They're not gonna respect you. Mm-hmm. You can't go, oh, hello, Mr. Demon. So, yes, I'd like to ask you a question. Would you mind giving me all of the knowledge in terms of being able to, I don't know why he's English, but he's like, please, sir, can I have some more cures for my demon-possessed sister? No, demons are, like, incredibly wicked and crazy. Obviously, they slaughtered his whole family. And Tomioka's like, you can't come at demons like that. You have to make him respect you if you're ever going to get your goal, right? Mm-hmm. But it seems like even though he's kind of like seeing something in Tanjiro, he kind of reasons and he goes, look, there's no hope, right? He says, you throwing yourself over your sister in order to protect her, you think that was going to work? Why didn't you swing your hatchet? Why did you turn your back to me? All those blunders led to me being able to capture your sister. So he's saying you made all these mistakes. If it was a demon, you guys would already be dead. I could have skewered you along with her. And then here he begins to internal dialogue, which this is the part he needs to say out loud to a young, impressionable man.
You should say this to the kid.
I was yelling the first time I saw this. I was like, why aren't you saying any of these words out loud?
I'm calling it right now that the actual reason for this being an internal thing as opposed to him actually saying it out loud is because he's trying to keep his, veneer of strength and stoicism in front of Tanjiro, and that ultimately this guy has to be somebody who either helps him out along the journey or trains him at some other point in the future. And so he doesn't want to like give away that he's kind of a softie inside, he doesn't want to give away that he has this like fatherly like heart towards the guy, because he's got to be his like instructor or something.
He's
at some
like
point.
Got the big brother heart towards the one that's the big brother to everyone else,
right?
But he's got to keep it under wraps because he's a warrior and he's tough.
Yeah.
Rah, rah, rah.
So he says, don't cry. There's no time for that. Oh man, my notes are. I typed this very quickly. He was basically like the Ben Shapiro of samurais here.
He was talking real fast.
Okay, folks, don't cry. It's no time for that. I know you're. I think
his defeat's really hard. I know that your family's just massacred, and it's really painful. And all you really want to do is scream.
Yeah.
He's not saying it that fast. You guys
I know
are
you
being
want to
dorks.
scream. If only I'd gotten here a half day earlier. So obviously, Tomioka was hunting these demons.
He feels guilty too.
There's not a way to turn back time. Feel the rage.
The pure rage. The rage that says you can't forgive.
That will become your unswerving drive to action. With this frail resolve, you can't heal or protect your sister or get revenge for your family. And so he kind of like, it seems like he turns a corner and he goes, kid, you're never going to be able to do anything in this world. You're too frail to be able to fight, the fight you need to fight. So he turns and he stabs Nezuko.
I don't think he actually is trying to kill her.
I don't think so either, because
I think that internal monologue, to me, the internal monologue he's going does not sound like someone who's given up on Tanjiro.
But you think he was to get him to act?
I think he's giving him space to contemplate the words that he just said, and then he's stabbing her in the shoulder to try to get him to rise up and take some kind of action to see what he does.
Okay, I think that does make sense because
that can make sense.
He says the encouraging part quietly, which means he gives him all this harsh truth.
Yes.
Then he kind of says, what are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Are you going to stand up or protect your sister? Or are you going to just basically be frail? Because if you're going to be frail, I'm going to kill her because there's no hope for either of you.
Yeah.
But if you're going to rise up, maybe there's something to be done.
There's hope for you.
Because he points his katana at him for a while before he turns it and stabs her in the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he doesn't decapitate her like he said he was going to.
Sure, he stabs her, right?
Yeah.
So then Tanjiro gets up and he sees his sister being stabbed. And he runs, he charges.
He throws a rock. He grabs a rock.
There's a rock, and he darts kind of behind this tree. As he does that, he throws another rock. Tomioka easily is dodging these rocks. And you see Tanjiro charging headlong at Tomioka and Nezuko. And he's got his hands cocked behind him, like he's got his a big old
like he's got both hands on his hatchet.
And he's running at him. And at the very last moment, he's about to try to swing on him. And Tomioka says, what a fool. A head-on collision full of emotion, and he just knocks him out immediately. You'll never get anywhere with a head-on attack.
Where's the hatchet?
And then he's like, wait, where's your hatchet?
where is the hatchet, right? Well, it's flying through the air, and it comes down, and it hits right next to Tomioka's head.
He barely has time to move out of the way.
And
so
we see...
Because he's distracted.
He does this thing, though, that I actually really love. So if you've seen The Last Samurai, they do it in this movie as well. So in The Last Samurai, right, Tom Cruise gets captured. He's stuck with a bunch of Japanese samurai, but he learns a lot from them. And the thing that they teach him the most, it's like emphasized in the movie, is this idea of mindfulness. And they're like, you have too many mind. You need to like be of one mind. Like they basically teach him. He's a very mentally and emotionally like disrupted guy. And by the time he leaves their company, he's a very like focused and mentally like intact guy, and specifically in combat. So at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, he gets into this fight scene, and he just beats up a bunch of these dudes, or he cuts them up with these two swords, and then he stops and pauses and reviews the fight in his mind and realizes that he did not actually kill or like slice this one guy, and then he's still around here, and then he goes to like get that guy after the fact. But it's this idea that he had the wherewithal, he had peace even inside of the battle, so that he could kind of review and think to himself, like, what really just happened? Which is an interesting, I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. I don't know if that's like an actual thing a person can do, because
that'd be cool though.
Adrenaline and stuff sort of jacks up your faculties for things like memory, which is why you're like, how many shots did you fire? Like, 2.
17?
And really it was, yeah, exactly, it was like 20. So yeah, so the hatchet comes down, he recalls like, oh, he threw the rock as a distraction and tossed the hatchet and then faked having it. Like he actually pulled out a very complex,
and his eyes get really wide, and he's like, what strategy?
And he realizes that Tanjiro knew he didn't have a chance against this guy. This guy's a complete warrior. He's not. So he's no way he could come at him headlong. All he had the hope is to get killed by this guy. And then hopefully after Tanjiro died, the axe would come down, it would kill Tomioka, and his sister would be free. And he realizes that, and he says, even in death, he was hoping to save his sister. This kid. And that is enough to let Nezuko kind of have
she has break. Her own like, oh crap, like it distracts him long enough for her to get away from him.
She kicks him.
Yeah, she breaks free, kicks him super hard, and she's charging at Tanjiro. Now, she's got her claws out. It looks like she's about to like grab him and eat him, and
he is like, oh no, he's gonna be devoured.
Yeah, oh no, right? But as she gets there, she sees him and she turns and she stands up, arms wide, saying,
she still has her claws back towards him, but she's in a protective stance, not a I'm going to bite your face off stance.
Don't you dare lay a finger on my brother.
So that's when he remembers all this stuff too. Like Tomioka remembers what Tanjiro just told him. He's like, no, she didn't kill anybody. And I know her, and like basically she's still on my team, more or less. Is what he's trying to communicate. He's like,
she'd never eat humans. That's what he remembers him saying.
Yeah, she would never kill a human. She would never eat anyone.
And then he thinks in his head, and he says, long ago, someone once said the same thing, only to be devoured by a demon. It happened more times than I can count. When a demon truly gets hungry, gets starving, it will kill anyone close to it. It'll kill its family. It'll kill its friends because it's starving. And even starving, as she is right now, because she has to be...
she's wounded. He stabbed her. She was already wounded.
To be able to heal, she's happened to be using like an immense amount of energy.
She also had transformed and untransformed.
So she should be starving. And even starving, she chose to protect him. And he realizes these might be different than the other cases.
He said these siblings might be different, is what he says.
And so as she rushes at him to fend off Tomioka from her brother, he sheathes his sword and gives her the old judo chop right to the neck. Judo chop.
Judo chop.
Gives him.
And she passes
She goes down. She wakes up with the bit in her mouth. Just a bit odd. But she wakes up.
Tanjiro wakes up too.
A bit odd.
Well, Tanjiro has that dream, right? He's dreaming about his family, and he sees his mother and all of his siblings around him. And his mother says, sorry, we have to leave you. And it's like so sad.
Yeah.
And then she like pats him on the head and says, please take care of Nezuko. And then he wakes up with tears in his eyes.
That's got to be one of the saddest.
And Nezuko like looks so peaceful, but she has bamboo in her mouth.
As far as like anime openings, like pilot episodes, this one feels very Attack on Titan.
It's
where
very much so.
They just shoot you straight into a real tragic, horrible moment.
But it makes you want to click that play next episode.
Oh,
it totally does.
For sure. So he wakes up, and what's his name?
He grabs Nezuko as soon as he sees her.
Yeah, he's like, oh, no, I'm still gonna protect her.
His mom says the very last thing is take care of Nezuko for me.
Yeah.
He wakes up and he grabs
Would
Nezuko.
you? Yeah.
What a guy.
And then he sits up and immediately pulls her into his lap and like cradles her, and it's so sweet.
So Tomioka tells him to see the old man at the mountain, and he gives him his name,
which is
I have it written down.
Urokodaki. Tells him to go see Urokodaki. He's in the mountain. He's like
foot of Mount Sajiri,
which is so vague of an address.
Like mountains
at the base of Mount Sajiri. Yeah.
You ever see like Mount Hood? Like technically we're at the base of Mount Hood now.
I know. Like you could drive hundreds of miles around.
Yeah. So he says she should be okay. Oh wait, he says tell him. Okay, my autocorrect says tell him Gigi sent you, but I'm pretty sure.
Hey, Gigi.
No, he says tell him
Tomioka.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I almost said Tomioka.
He says that she should be okay because it's cloudy, but don't let her see the sunshine. Again, is she a Titan?
Don't expose her to the sunlight.
Is she a Titan, a wall Titan, where you can't let her see the sunshine? She'll activate.
Kind of what we realize is the demons are kind of like vampires.
They're vampires.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly what it is because they have to feed off human flesh for energy. Spiky teeth.
Spiky teeth.
Yep.
They have the sparkles.
Pale skin. Their eyes are red.
And they can't see the sun.
They transform when they get touched by the blood. And yeah, they can't see the sun. They get supernatural strength, obviously. She can change size.
So they're basically vampires.
So they're the demons are kind of like vampires.
Which makes me wonder if they can actually speak.
That's an interesting question. So he says, never let it go in the light. The clouds are okay for now. So Tanjiro and Nezuko, they actually go back to their family.
Yeah, be careful with crucifixes, garlic, and mirrors because it's going to get weird.
But they bury their family, and Nezuko's there the whole time. She's not trying to kill him. She's not being crazy. She's standing there kind of like almost reverently.
She's still got her claws and stuff, but she's a little more sane.
But Tanjiro buries the whole family. They say a prayer, and then he grabs her by the hand, and they walk off together to end the scene.
He kind of stops and looks back for a second with sadness and I miss the good old days.
I cannot imagine having to bury my whole family.
He like turns forward and he's like, okay, I got a new thing to do. And he starts running with her.
Yeah.
Towards the next thing.
He said, I can't look back in time. I can't go back and save my family. I can't worry about those things. I have to think about going forward. All I can do now is try to protect and help Nezuko. I've got to go see Urokodaki at the foot of this mountain. So.
Thank you for not being an Uber cliffhanger. But I'm still interested in seeing the next episode. So this works out.
Yes.
All right. Well, we love you guys. There's really not, I don't think we're going to do much of a spoiler section for this one. We're just going to kind of walk through the show as we do.
But I've got some questions.
You have some questions?
I do have some questions.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So you've seen just a teeny bit of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what you've seen so far.
Yeah.
What do you predict? Because you know, for the next 16, 70 episodes, what do you predict is going to happen? Don't go with immediate. Let's go with long term.
Long term, like I already kind of know some of the things. Like he certainly has to become one of these like Demon Slayer class people. I think that part's pretty obvious. Is that he like ends up joining this like whatever secret society, and this old man is probably like the head of it. And these are the people who have the most knowledge about demons and stuff in general. So his mission is to try and get Nezuko to turn back. So ultimately, what he's got to do is he's got to know everything he can about demons, but then the demons are probably going to be the ones that I think possess the knowledge to turn her back. Here's my prediction is that in that process, he discovers something way bigger than just turning his sister back into, which like, that is his personal goal, but that there's actually like either a threat to the world or some threat to a town, a society, like that there's something more to this, these demons. My hunch is that like, because this is the first one anybody in his town, anybody's area has even seen. It seems like these people don't even know this stuff is even real. So maybe there's like a rise in like demon population or like something's happening. Something's like activating this problem. And I think that's probably where it ended up going is that he has to kind of discover like I said, that it's more than just I have to turn my sister back, but that I actually have to do something. Oh, he finds something out along the way, makes him go, wait, I have to do like more than this. I have to obtain like the strength of a demon. I have to find the head demon guy. Like there's got to be something else that kind of complicates things. Just because, like I could see it not being that way, but I wish it's that. I hope it's that way because that would make it a lot more interesting. That's my prediction.
Becca, prediction.
People will probably die.
That's pretty good.
Anything good happen in the next 17, 18 episodes?
I don't know, maybe a romantic love story.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
some romance could appear.
They're a little young for that, but it's fine.
All right. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting prediction. I'd say there's probably some things in there that could be correct, some things that could be massively incorrect. But we're gonna go through it all.
That's how I would write it.
Time will tell. Hey guys, if you appreciate our show and you like supporting us, please come follow us on twitch.tv/beyondthebasement Sunday nights at 5 or Friday nights for our game nights. If you enjoy this kind of thing, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit us a like, that really helps, and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Also, if you're famished, you're thirsted, you're dehydrated,
any of the above,
and you need a beverage vessel to be able
or
to
something to hold your soup because you're hungry. That's what famished means.
Okay.
Moisture has deserted your body.
We've got these mugs for sale. Check out the link in the description. We've also got these cool t-shirts that help you rep the squad. Thank you guys for joining. Please check it out. We will see you in the next Demon Slayer episode.
See ya. Clink, clink.
Hey guys, thanks again for watching and listening to our show, Beyond the Basement Podcast. If y'all are enjoying it, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever else you listen to our show. Check out the description below for links to our awesome Attack on Titan merchandise. And join us live on Sunday nights on Facebook for all of Season 4. And some of our best content is on YouTube, including me, so go ahead and check that out. And lastly, if you guys have any questions or just want to chat with us, please email us at beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys in the next video.